I'm gonna tweet out that we're going live. Okay, cool.
Okay. Why is it not showing up when I'm live? There we go. So I gotta make sure I mute this. All right. Welcome, everybody, to another wonderful evening, an episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the show where we talk the week's events in Geek. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, a.k.a. Drac. I hope everybody has had a wonderful, awesome weekend. For me, it actually went down, or it ended on a high note because I was able to go see Star Trek Beyond today. And where I was really worried about that film, mainly because it was going to be Star Trek Mad Max, you'll be surprised to hear what I think about it later on in the show. So I've also had a very good week. I've got lots of videos coming out and have come out this week, so I'm very happy about that. But of course, I'm not the only person here, and I'm definitely not the only YouTuber here. I'm being joined by my usual panel of fellow geeks, fellow friends, fellow comrades in arms, and fellow YouTubers. And first, I'm being joined by the Shadow Blazer himself, Alex Short. How are you doing this fine evening, Alex?
Doing pretty well, although I did have to work today, even though I wasn't really supposed to, but I filled in for a coworker who needed a shift change. But I've had quite the interesting week, to say the least, because, for one, my copyright strike that was standing against me just went away. No reason, no explanation, it just went away. And
Hooray!
yay! So I can finally upload longer videos again.
The reason we did that was, oh, look at the pretty bunny! Look at the pretty bunny! Look at the pretty bunny! Look at the pretty bunny!
Well,
More accurately, it's just like, oh, someone disputed one of the many claims. Whatever. I don't want to bother.
Well, no, it's actually I just barely realized. So it was Sony, I think that had the copyright strike on you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they were afraid that you would hack them.
No, they were afraid that he would hire North Koreans to hack them.
There you go. There you go.
So in that instance, I pretty much transported any lawn videos that were on my second channel back over to my main channel, so re-uploaded the complete X-Files Let's Play I finished over the spring, and finished the whole Long Live the Queen forest run I was doing, and I also 100%ed that game, got every achievement, so yay, go me. Also had a couple of packages come this week I did an unboxing for. One, of course, is the new volume of Puella Tart Magica Legend of Jeanne d'Arc, which is, as I mentioned, the fantasy version of Joan of Arc as a magical girl, and I got the second half of Yona of the Dawn, so yay, pretty good week. Busy, but good week.
Busy would be putting it lightly, my friend, considering that we actually got not only a full recording session done, we got 2 full recording sessions done this week, so people have plenty to look forward to, not just from me, but also from the Shadow Blazer and from Drac and Shadow. And of course, we're also being joined by Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost Utah, of Romney's Reviews, of From the Shelf. Romney, how you doing this evening? How you doing?
Well, doing pretty good. I mean, the week, for the most part, I'm getting back into the swing of going to early showings, which is why, unfortunately, I haven't seen Star Trek Beyond just yet, because as most people can recall, I got 2 reviews up this week ahead of their releases, one with a decent film and one with a film that made me want to claw my own brain out. And as for how today went, because in addition to getting back into screenings, I'm also trying to get back into exercising, which has been both good and bad. It's been a reminder of how out of shape I really am. But at the very time,
brother.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's at least been feeling good. Been actually getting moving again. Actually working out, getting those nice, good endorphins that make you feel positive about the world and not wanting to throw yourself in front of a truck. And,
yeah.
But speaking of vehicular incidents, oddly enough, a funny thing that happened today is that I accidentally, for the first time in my short time as a driver, I locked my keys in my car. It happens to everybody at least once, and so this happened to be the first time it happened. And the weird thing is that the engine was running, keys locked in, had to call my mom to get a spare key, and so I'm just standing in front of the gray wall, just kind of worried people are giving me weird looks, like, what's this guy doing? Is he trying to, break in? And then finally someone came out and was like, oh, are you locked out? And I'm just like, yeah, is someone coming? Yeah, okay. And then people realize, okay, he's locked out of his car, but, yeah. So that happened.
Alex, our little reviewer is growing up.
He is. He really is. We're so proud.
Yeah, but unfortunately, because of that incident, I wasn't able to see Star Trek Beyond today either, because that set me back a good hour.
I'm more worried that you'd seen a movie that made you want to claw your own brain out. Please tell me you didn't go see Ghostbusters again.
No, this is, and I apologize to any listeners
That's
who reside.
irony, people. He liked it. I was the one that actually walked out not really liking it.
Well, let me make this clear. I apologize in advance to any fans of this show that reside in Great Britain that have particular nostalgia for this television series, but Absolutely Fabulous, the movie, is one of the worst comedies I have ever seen. Ever.
Ouch.
I know the TV show has a huge fan base in both Britain and in the US, but as someone who's never seen the show, the movie was absolutely unbearable. But if you want to see my full review, it is currently up on my channel.
Very good. All right, and so we have our introductions done, and we have some news to get to this evening. Now, unfortunately, we're still kind of in the light news kind of category, so unfortunately, our tech end is not as long as I would hope. But thankfully, we do have some entertainment stuff, and that's the funniest part is the last couple of weeks, we've had more entertainment than we've had tech, and I think it's just because we're still going through E3 burnout, and we're prepping up for Tokyo Game Show burnout.
Well, we also currently got San Diego Comic-Con unvailing a bunch of stuff left and right.
Yeah, that too. A lot of the TV announcements. We actually got a lot of suggestions just literally right now. So I have a feeling, not right now, both yesterday and also earlier today. So we might save the Comic-Con stuff for next week because it's still coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So to all the Comic-Con people who may be a little disappointed, we're getting all that news like as it's coming, and frankly, like I could keep track of IGN or wherever all night tonight, and I still wouldn't get all the news. So we'll catch up to that as we can. But we do have plenty of other stories to talk about. One of which is going to take up our Nintendo Talk segment, and in a very unusual way because, well, the Shadow Blazer wanted to make sure that we talked about this. What he didn't know was that another listener who's a Sonic fan also wanted us to talk about this, which is that despite the fact that I have come out and said that they should wait until the 30th anniversary, Sega said, screw that, and we're going to be celebrating the 25th anniversary. And they made not one, but two announcements. And a lot of people didn't catch the second one. So I'm here to inform you that there were more than one announcement, but let's go ahead and cover the obvious one, and that is the introduction of Sonic Mania! What, that's not what you wanted, Alex?
I loved that. That was great.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
that's probably how a Sonic show would be introduced if it was like a Spielberg-produced Warner Brothers cartoon.
He's the fastest maniac alive. Yeah, there you go. So at that point, we have the announcement of Sonic Mania. In celebration of the 25th anniversary, Sega has actually taken back to their roots, or really they haven't. What they've done is they've taken, if people remember, not earlier this year, I think it was earlier last year, we talked about how Sega had acquired a number of independent studios. And it just so happens that all three of these studios, and I double-checked, all three of them are working on this, are working on Sonic Mania. So at this point, this is basically their trial run for these indie studios, and they're working on the Sonic 25th anniversary by creating Sonic Mania, a 2D reimagining of Sonic. So the way that this is going to work is that, like I said, they're taking it back to their 2D roots, and they're actually going to be revisiting a lot of the older levels, and there actually will be a story campaign taking us back through those old levels. But the interesting part is that we're also going to be seeing some new level designs, some new interesting aspects, and all of this is based, according to where I was actually able to get the homework, a lot of it is based in the Sonic CD and, to some extent, the Sonic 3 and Knuckles engine. So a lot of the elements, or a lot of the assets are going to look very similar to that, and for good reason, because Sega exec was actually able to come out and say the reason that they went for those particular is because Sonic, if you look at all of the Sonic games, the most revered are CD and Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So at that point, they decided to stay within those assets, within that familiarity, as well as create new assets within that familiarity. So I'll get to my viewpoints in a second before we get into Project Sonic. But Shadow Blazer, I'm just gonna let you. I'm gonna let you have your geeky moment. I'm just gonna let you gush, and we're gonna be okay with it because tonight we ain't gonna have no Prozac budget tonight.
Well, I do want to, as much as I do kind of want to gush, I want to still approach this with cautious enthusiasm because, well, I was gushing for the concept of Sonic Boom, and, well, I got burned out pretty bad with that one, so... So, once again, I have to approach this with a bit of cautious optimism, not just because of Sonic Boom. There's a number of factors that play into the idea of Sonic Mania, where I'm a little bit mixed on, so it's going to come down to execution. On the positive ends, it is great to see it kind of become much more of a throwback title, much more in the style of the old Genesis games.
Yep.
And another big plus, well, we got Christian Whitehead as one of the developers who was in charge of porting Sonic CD, Sonic 1, Sonic 2 for various consoles, including PlayStation, iOS, Android. So we got a pretty solid guy who knows how to basically reverse engineer engines from the ground up, and he's made a few of his own.
And again, we also have the two other studios, Headcanon and Pagoda West. Mm-hmm. These were recently acquired by Sega, which means they have access to those assets.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention, Whitehead is also working on Freedom Planet 2 right now, so this is a guy who knows what he's doing. People actually seek him out for assistance here. So looks like we got some solid talent behind it. Well, that being said, though, what has me a little angsty about this, perhaps, is, well, yeah, it is a throwback game. And throwback games are nice, but at the same time, well, we had Sonic 4, which was essentially a throwback game, but not
I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you. What game was that?
Sonic the Hedgehog 4.
I don't know what you're talking about. That game doesn't exist, at least to Sonic fans.
No, it's okay. I mean, the first one is clunky as all hell. The second one improved a lot of the gameplay mechanics, but was still largely forgettable. And, well, that was my problem. They were largely average, forgettable, retro-styled games. I don't care if Sonic has green eyes, blue eyes, black eyes, purple eyes. I don't care what his eyes are. I don't care how long his legs are, or how dark his fur is, or blue, whatever. That's not the stuff I care about. I care about, does this feel and play like a
What you're Sonic basically saying is that you're not the Sonic fan who actually takes out the measuring tape to measure his legs.
No, and I don't care what color his arms are, because those are minor aesthetics that doesn't make a difference in the world. That's, to me, literally like complaining that Mario has a red shirt and blue overalls instead of a opaque shirt and white overalls from the classic Super Mario Brothers 1. It just doesn't matter what he looks like. What matters is how is the game. And, well, Sonic 4, being a throwback, was mostly a rehash of a lot of those old games, which just made me wish I'd rather be playing those old games instead.
Yeah.
But I'll give this a chance. I really will, because it does look pretty decent from what we've seen so far. I've listened to some of the music that's been put out. It's not bad. It's very reminiscent of Sonic CD, even, which is encouraging. Probably a little more Sonic CD Japan, but that's okay. And
I'll admit I've heard none of the music, and the main reason I haven't was because for some reason, when I tried to run when Alex actually sent me the trailer, because that's how excited he got, was that he sent this trailer to everybody he could think of. For some reason, the YouTube app on my phone treated the trailer as if it had no sound. So I had to wait until. Oh, when did I get home? Like that night, it was 11 p.m. or maybe even midnight before I actually heard some of the sampling, and I'm not gonna say I'm impressed yet because I want to hear a full-on score.
Right. Well, later on I'll link you to, because there were some individual videos that just had standalone music, so they're kind of, which was pretty it was pretty jazzy, pretty swanky, so I enjoyed it. Sure. So. Yeah, one of the big surprises to me is that Sonic Mania so far looks like it's only coming for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. It doesn't look like it's coming to any Nintendo consoles, is it?
Not yet. But here's the thing, is that it does have a spring 2017 release date, and what's coming out around that time.
The Wii U. I mean, sorry, the Wii U. The NX.
Wow, the Wii.
I'm tired.
I'm like a super early adopter. I don't know about you, Romney.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. What year is this? I mean, we got Independence Day and we got Star Wars, and what year is this?
I know, right? Really quick before we go any further, I forgot to actually mention that again for 2 weeks in a row, we actually have a live chat. So hi, chat, and we're going to be watching you guys throughout the evening. So continue to gush, Alex, if you have any more to gush about.
Well, it's a mixed bag. I hope that this balances a bit more with the retro and the new. I don't want it just to feel like it's just harping purely on the nostalgia like Sonic 4 did. And again, I'll say Sonic 4
I hate to disappoint you. That's exactly what it's going to do. But go ahead.
Jeez, Alan, you're always so negative. You really are. At least try and fill me with some optimism, for God's sake.
Here's some Prozac. There you go.
I thought we blew our Prozac budget.
I blew the Prozac budget playing Doom. No, if it makes you feel any better, I'm actually fairly optimistic about this. Right. So I'll get there. We'll get there when we get there, though.
Well, we got again solid team of developers behind it. It's very much a wait and see. I'll give it a shot.
All right. Romney, do you have any thoughts on Sonic Mania?
You know, oddly enough, my exposure to the whole Sonic thing kind of happened in reverse of everyone else, where I didn't actually see or hear about Sonic Mania, but rather heard about Project Sonic, because that was the only trailer I'd actually seen. And so my whole exposure has been in the reverse, but based on what it's describing, well, I'll have to take a look at the trailer and see if it's actually worth it, because, well, and this may get me slugged by a bunch of people, but I didn't really grow up with a lot of the 2D Sonics. Like, my first exposure to Sonic was Sonic Adventure, so I'm more accustomed to the 3D versions, and particularly characters like E102, which I still will argue that, although the gameplay was a bit iffy, that's still probably one of the strongest video game stories that I was ever exposed to as a kid.
Hey, I have no shame in admitting I adore the Adventure series. I am one of those diehard who keeps crying for Sonic Adventure 3. Half-Life 3, people, we know your pain. We know your pain.
Well, except we technically got Sonic Adventure 3. They just marketed it as a reboot as Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, we don't talk about the Hedgehog.
Well, I
know, blissfully ignorant, but here's the unfortunate fact. You got Sonic Adventure 3. It involved a third hedgehog.
Yeah,
that hedgehog was a broken mess. Sorry.
And was basically a ripoff of Trunks. That's pretty much all he was. He was a ripoff of Trunks. It even says in the design document that basically Trunks from Dragon Ball Z.
Yes.
Well, yes, but let's face it, Sonic has always worn its Dragon Ball influences on its sleeve, so what are you going to really do about that? So
yeah,
yeah. I love the 3D. I do love a lot of the 3D games. I'm even one of those weirdos who will defend Shadow the Hedgehog to an extent. It's got problems, I know, but so it's not that I'm totally against the 3D games, but I did grow up with the 2D games, so certainly I want.
Yeah,
it's nice to see a 2D throwback.
Well, yeah, and if I'm able to get the chance to give it a try, I'll definitely give it a try, because I've gone back and played some of the 2D games. I don't think I've beaten any of them, because, again, a lot of those old school games are very, very difficult. And so, it sounds like an interesting concept, but I kind of have the same sense of caution of, is it just the pure nostalgia gambit, or are we getting something different? And given the similar ideas that we're getting with Project Sonic, which we may as well just call Sonic Generations 2, because that's pretty much what it is. There's no point around it. And so I'm just thinking, is it going to basically be a 2D version of that, or are we going to get something unique? I'm just thinking, well, it could go either way. I'll just hold off until I'm able to actually try a demo or something to see how it actually feels.
Okay. I'm going to derail really quick because the chat is giving the Shadow Blazer a little bit of crap. Apparently he bashes EA all the time. And I was saying, well, which one of us? Because I did it too. And so I actually said, do you want me to link my statements after the EA conference this year? They said, sure. So here you go. This is what I literally sent Alex after the EA E3 2016 conference, especially after the Star Wars announcements. Wow, that would have been a great Star Wars announcement, EA, if you actually fucking announced something. Alex responds, so which was it this time? I respond, it was the Skywalker Ranch trailer, only 5 to 6 shorter, separate times. Alex responds, oh, M G . I respond with, yeah, seriously, here's the breakdown. DICE, we've got stuff coming for Battlefront. Motive, we're working with DICE on said stuff for Battlefront. Galaxy of Heroes, stuff is coming. BioWare, stuff is coming to Old Republic. Respawn, we're working on a game. Visceral, so are we. End of announcement.
Yeah, was
There you
it?
go, chat.
Yeah. So to get back on topic. Then,
I'm sorry, did you have more thoughts on it, Ronnie?
no, I just lost it actually.
Oh, we're sorry.
So, let me go ahead and go into my thoughts really quick on Sonic Mania. It's been very well known, especially on Direct Shadow, and whenever me and Alex actually do talk about this, it comes up quite a bit. And I've said it, and I'll continue to say it. Sonic is broken right now. And I'm saying broken in a number of ways, and one of which is I don't think that Sonic Team, or at least the team members currently there, have any new ideas, have any new life to put into this franchise. They are literally running themselves into a wall and then digging a hole under that wall just to run themselves into the wall even more. So at that point, my proposal has been, give them a break. Let them go work on something else for 5 to 10 years. Go work on a new property, because obviously this isn't the same Sonic team that we've been following for years. There's been employee changeouts. There's been creator changeouts. There's been a number of other things. And I said that a 5 to 10 year break, which you have disagreed with, Alex, a 5 to 10 year break would be a good thing because it would help them to refresh their perspective, maybe work on a different game in Sega's vault to be able to figure out what they want to do with Sonic.
It's not that it's not that I entirely disagree with you. It's just the logistical problem is a lot of Sonic Team's other projects have never done as well for Sega as Sonic has. That's why Sega keeps pushing them to keep making more Sonic games.
Mm-hmm.
From a creative standpoint, I've always been 50-50 with you on this, because on the one hand, it's like this, the way I saw it with the 25th anniversary would have I been heartbroken if we didn't get a game? Not particularly. I probably would have been just fine if we didn't get anything for the 25th anniversary. At the same time, am I totally against it? No, either. So go ahead, continue.
Well, and one of the things that you've actually kind of agreed with me on that is if they waited 5 to 10 years, that might get the bad taste of, say, Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric out of their mouths. And people might be a little bit more receptive. Because right now, kids only know Sonic as one thing. Oh, that really crappy game? Oh, that really weird TV series that gets really weird times on Cartoon Network? That's how people know Sonic at this point. I know Sonic from a good time. So does Alex. So with that being said, let me get into Sonic Mania. I'm going to open this up to the chat as well as to you guys. Have you guys? I know you haven't, Alex, because I've actually encouraged you to see it. And I don't think you ever have. Have you seen, Romney? Have you seen the Game Over Thinker episode about how to fix Sonic?
I don't think I have.
Okay, so this is the best way that I can illustrate it. For those who have seen it, you're going to get where I'm going. But for those who haven't, let me bring this up as best as I can. One of the ways, or the way that the Game Over Thinker, Bob Chipman, if you guys don't know who that is, he actually illustrates 2 ways that Sonic could go to fix itself. One is, and he deems them the Mario path and the Mega Man path. Okay, and the reason he deems that is because the Mario path would be to innovate, to push the bar, like, say, Sonic Lost World did, where they tried to emulate Mario Galaxy-esque innovation. It would be to continue to innovate, to find things other than speed to work on, to be able to make either a solid platformer or maybe even go into a whole new genre altogether to be able to push it forward. But that, in turn, would also mean a lot of hard work, because you'd have to basically work very hard on the level design. You'd have to really look at the Sonic lore and figure out and literally cut the chaff from the wheat and take all of the unnecessary elements and cut it back down to its bare essentials to relaunch it and give it new life. The second path is the Mega Man path, which Sonic Mania actually follows, which is catering specifically towards nostalgia. Okay, and the reason that he makes this characterization is around that time when the video came out, Mega Man 9 and Mega Man 10. I think Mega Man 10 was on the way. Mega Man 9 had come out, and so at that point, this was what we were expecting from Mega Man from here on in, feeding into nostalgia, and that was all that we were ever going to get. We weren't going to get a brand spanking new Mega Man 9 or Mega Man 11 in 3D. That wasn't going to happen. We were only going to cater to nostalgia. We were only going to recreate games in that purview. Sonic Mania does that to an extent, okay? But I will honestly acknowledge one thing. When I said that they could take a 5 to 10 year break, I didn't actually consider that they would take this option. And this is actually, in my opinion, a good choice. Because, yes, it does take that whole aspect of feeding solely on nostalgia, but well, what's the one thing that Sonic fans are telling newcomers all the time right now? Is Sonic used to be so badass back in the day. And this allows for people to be able to see that. And the other thing that I'm also going to say that is helpful to this, it isn't Sonic Team working on it. It's independent developers working on it, lovers of Sonic. In fact, you want to know what would have made this better as far as I'm concerned, Alex?
Mm-hmm.
The guy who did Freedom Planet, he should be working on it.
Well, he's doing Freedom Planet too, so he can't really work.
No, he's busy doing Freedom Planet too, but that would have been like the icing on the cake. Because then at that point, basically Sega is saying, we're giving this to the fans. You design a Sonic game. You show us why you love it. Yeah. And then we will learn from you as we take the series back to its roots and judge how we're going to take Sonic into the future.
Yeah. As skeptical as I've been with other third parties taking on Sonic games, because most of the third-party Sonic games have never really been good, if there's any ones I would at least give much more of a fair shake, it would be people like Galaxy Trail or Way Forward. You know, if they weren't already busy with their own projects right now, which they are, but you know, just on a hypothetical scenario, if in the not too distant future, after Freedom Planet 2 is done, or after this new Shantae game is done, these studios might be given a shot to helm another sort of retro-style indie 2D Sonic game, while Sonic as sort of the B team, while Sonic A team continues to work on the next 3D game.
But this is also something that they could consider in the future. Like, let's just say for the sake of argument, because we'll get into the second game in a second, but what if Sonic Mania does really, really well? What does this teach Sega? Maybe they ought to work with more maybe they ought to work with more indie developers to create new levels for this, or to create new games based in the Sonic Mania vein, kind of thing. That encourages them to be able to do it, and that encourages creators like the Freedom Planet guy, or what is it, Galaxy Trail? Is that the studio?
Trail. Yeah.
Galaxy Trail to work with him. Who's doing Shantae? Way Forward. And maybe even studios like Yacht Club working with them to create new levels and new games for Sonic, and for them to get a revenue stream from it. And I also want to clarify really quick, because a statement was made in the chat, nostalgia sometimes can't be a bad thing. I'm not saying it is. I mean, for crying out loud, this week I literally played a game that is totally fueled by nostalgia, and it's fine. I'm okay with it. Sometimes nostalgia can be a good or a bad thing. It just depends on how the company drives it. I would dare say Capcom did the wrong thing when it came to Mega Man 9 and 10, because they pretty much showed to us we're not going to get anything other than that. They're not going to go and do a 3D game, and even after 10, we're not going to get nostalgia-driven Mega Man games anymore, because apparently it didn't do well enough, and neither did Mega Man v Street Fighter. So that's one of those things that can make it a bad thing at times, is whether or not the company drives it well. So let's actually go ahead and go into the next announcement, which is from Sonic Team, but specifically from the team that created Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations. They announced Project Sonic, which is slated for... So, where Mania is slated for spring 2017, which I'm going to make the fair argument that is well within the release time of the NX, so I have a feeling you'll get an announcement for NX, if not later. But the holiday 2017 title, Project Sonic, is one of three, I believe, 3 games slated for the NX that are third party. And Project Sonic, we don't know too much about it aside from it's from the Sonic team developers of Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations, and we have a trailer. And the trailer basically looks like Sonic Generations 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna mince words here. It looks like Sonic Generations 2. Am I not cool with this? Absolutely not. I love Generations. I thought it was a nice little trip down nostalgia lane. But we don't have much information aside from that, other than it's coming to the NX. Great. Good on you. So, have you since seen the trailer, Alex?
I've seen the trailer, yeah.
You want to give your thoughts really quick?
Well, unfortunately, again, it's like that. Like you said, there's not a lot because it's a basic teaser trailer, so it's probably pre-animated, pre-rendered, everything. So, but you're right. It looks like it might be another hallmark of Sonic Generations. If it is, then it is, and I hope we get a lot more levels out of it than we did with the first Generations.
And you showed me Colors earlier this year.
Yeah,
and I loved it.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed Colors. That was probably the first Sonic game I'd played in quite a while. Well, not really, because I did touch the storybook games a little bit to an extent. I never got far in them, but Colors really impressed me when I first played it way back. That was probably like 2009. In fact, that was the game that I kind of wrote off a little bit at first when I saw the announcement trailer way back when. Because it was coming out the same time as Sonic 4, so I was hedging my bets on Sonic 4, and, well, Sonic 4 kind of disappointed, but Sonic Colors came in and really impressed me.
You backed the wrong horse.
I did back the wrong horse.
The sad part is that, I mean, because around that time also wasn't Unleashed coming out right next to Colors as well?
No, Unleashed was earlier.
What was the other game that came out right alongside Colors and people went to that instead of Colors? I can't remember, Alex.
Sonic 4.
Sonic 4.
Sonic 4 was? Okay. So yeah, basically at that point you backed the wrong horse, unfortunately.
Or I guess in this case, the wrong hedgehog.
Yeah, for lack of a better term. Yeah. Romney, have you since seen the trailer?
Yeah, this was like the only announcement that I actually had seen from the whole Sonic event, which happened at Comic-Con. And aside from the Honda Civic that they showed off, that I'm thinking, okay, yeah, just publicity stunt, a Sonic-themed Honda Civic, then I saw the trailer for Project Sonic, and at first, it was literally like, to kind of chart my reaction process, I saw kind of the dark, like, robots destroying the cities, like, oh, it's going grimdark, and I saw, oh, it's like Sonic as I remember him, no Nathan Drake pointless scarf, and then as I saw kind of what it looked like, oh, it's going to be like the 3D Sonics that I remember, and then I saw classic Sonic, and I figured, okay, I see what they're doing.
Yeah.
No scarf, no hipster Sonic.
Yeah, keep in mind, I haven't played Generations, so I haven't had the chance, just because it just kind of flew past me by a little bit, and that it came out during a time where I was kind of put off from Sonic after a lot of crap that had basically been shoveled into many a player's laps, and so I never really got the chance to play Generations because it just wasn't on my radar when it came out. And so,
truth be told, I mean, I was kind of in the same boat. Generations, I heard about, I think 6 months after it released. So.
Yeah, and it was also at a point where I wasn't really playing home consoles, and I read reviews of the 3DS version. And I figured, well, I don't want to get the 3DS version because that was around the same time I got Sonic Lost World for the 3DS, and it was very much fool me once, Sega. And so,
shame on me.
Yeah, it was like fool me once, Sega, and that was pretty much. Because the Lost World port for 3DS is abysmal. But anyway, I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking, I'm worried because it could be like, are they trying to basically replicate the same basic idea out of desperation? Is kind of what the trailer kind of communicated to me. It's like, are they going to be telling something different, or are they basically just trying to hope lightning will strike twice with the same basic concept?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think, truth be told, Sega is grasping at straws. They're going. Now, granted, I think they're finally listening to fans, which is something that they haven't been doing. Especially like if Sonic Boom, any of those games are any indication, they're finally starting to listen where they weren't before. And at that point, they maybe decided that. If we're going to do this right, if we're going to bring Sonic into this new generation, we really do need to redefine what Sonic is. how the game plays, and these two are very good ways to do it, but it does show desperation on Sega's part.
Then just thinking from a narrative standpoint, because again, I'm one of those people who plays games for the story, I'm just thinking, what can you do that would cause the classic Sonic and modern Sonic to interact again? Because I did look into the story of Generations, like, okay, there's this huge time rip, and then it got all wrapped up. I'm thinking, okay, where can you go with that story? Like, what would happen? I mean, you're basically running into the Terminator problem, where you have so much time travel going on that it's just a case of, obviously, it's just not going to stop, because you got things going back further and further in time, and and that's kind of the thing that my brain is like, where are they? What can they do with the story? Because they've already done the time travel plot.
Yeah, well, they'll figure out something to do with it, I think. And I also need to point out for the chat, we have Sonic and Nathan Drake in Sonic Uncharted Territory. I blame you for that, Romney.
Well, I wasn't the one who coined the term. That's what a lot of people pointed out when the designs were first revealed. Like, oh, Sonic was given a Nathan Drake scarf.
I didn't even like. Here's the thing: when I saw the Boom designs, and Alex can attest to this, I didn't even notice the scarf. The athletic tape was the thing that drove me nuts. Athletic tape everywhere. It was like I still remember. It was the Olympics before that, where everybody was doing all of these plushy stories in the news about athletic tape and how, like, the women's volleyball team and the women's gymnastics and all of those people were using athletic tape instead of proper braces and stuff like that while they were performing. And so literally the next thing I see is Sonic Boom with just covered head to foot in athletic tape. It's like,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, my favorite reaction to it was a comic someone drew where it shows the classic Sonic characters as we knew them, and they're all driving in a car, but then suddenly the car crashes, and then they're all covered in the various athletic tape as bandages.
And Sega went, we have an idea here.
No, it wasn't really that. It's just like the reason. It's like said the real reason for the athletic tape, and it just shows them all getting into accidents, and then they're just like wearing like the athletic tape bandages.
Yep. So my thoughts on Project Sonic is, you guys have pretty much hit all of the points. This does look like desperation out of Sega's part, but frankly, as far as I'm concerned, Sega is in a desperate situation, and so at that point, there's no reason to hide it. At that point. So I'm at least interested in the fact that this looks like Sonic Generations. I'm not necessarily worried about, is it going to be a time travel plot? Will it involve the Heartless Ghosts from the previous game? I don't care. All I care about is being able to see, because I love the gameplay of Generations, and therefore I want to see more levels being brought to life, both from a 2D and from a 3D perspective. I'm fine. I'm fine with it. I'm not really all that concerned with how we get there, because I have a feeling we're going to get those answers throughout 2017. And of course, the thing that people wanted us to talk about was, obviously, it is an NX release, which is one of 3 that are now third-party. Now, one person did actually ask, do we officially consider Nintendo not in bed? What's the other word? Officially, we cool with all the third parties? No. No. In order for us to be able to be there, Nintendo would have to have maybe 7 or 8 titles in the works right now that were third party.
And it would also depend on which third party companies. This is not enough to just have 7 or 8. They'd have to get people like Capcom, like BioWare, like Ubisoft, all these larger companies that put out AAA third party titles on a regular basis. Those are the companies they're going to need to court, because that's what's going to sell systems. I mean, to prove the problem, most of the stuff that launched with the Wii U was ports of games that had already come out for a couple of years prior to the release of the Wii U, which people saw, well, what's the point? I've already played these games.
Now, granted, Sega's one of the developers. One of the other ones is Ubisoft. Ubisoft has claimed that they have seen the NX, or not Ubisoft themselves, the president of Ubisoft has seen the NX, or at least concept plans for it, and he does have something in the works for it. But in order to I think, dissuade that issue, I mean, I hate to go down this road, but you need to have some mainstream titles coming out on the NX. So, yeah, COD needs to be coming out on it. EA has to have a title there.
See if you can get a Witcher game. I mean, that'll be a good way to draw people. It's like, go to CD Projekt Red. It's like, hey, you want to develop a Witcher game for the NX?
Yeah, or even better, like, if you wanted to recreate Witcher 3, but do a Nintendo edition and include all the DLC and all that stuff. I know a lot of people weren't okay with the Wii U nostalgia trip that happened where they released Assassin's Creed 3 and Batman Arkham City. I was okay with it because at that point it at least showed that Nintendo was talking to these third-party developers instead of being, old tyrannical Nintendo. So at that point, I'm not necessarily going to jump down their throats for that, but we do need to have those mainstream games. Chad just brought up we need to have a Madden on the NX. I don't want to have that, but we need to have it.
Yeah, because that's one of the staples. Madden, FIFA, NHL, basically the sports games are a serious staple, especially if they still want to court the kids. Like, oh, hey, parents who like sports, you want to get your kids into sports? Buy Madden.
It's not just a staple, it's also showing that EA and Nintendo have a good relationship.
Yeah, especially after some of the things they said in regards to the Wii U, that's something that kind of needs to be patched up.
Shut up, Blazer. Boom! Tough Fact and Connected. Yeah, there you go. All right, I think we've hammered these quite a bit. We've actually consumed most of the hour just talking about Sonic. So, shout out, Blazer. Are you satisfied that we were able to actually talk about Sonic?
That was it. I am satisfied. We got to talk about Sonic fast, and so thank you, because I really thought you were going to pitch a fit.
No, what you didn't know and I hid from you is that you weren't the only one asking for it. So there you go.
But that's also why I included one of our later stories to sweeten the deal.
Yeah, so the other story that we have for the tech portion is kind of dumb. And the reason it's dumb is because, well, we've heard these scams before. So I can't remember, or it was exactly on July 20th, at least when the story from GameSpot aired, which was Shuhei Yoshida, president of Worldwide Studios for Sony Computer Entertainment, got hacked on Twitter by a group called OurMine. This is a hacker group called OurMine. And I love their actual response to this is that it's OurMine. We were testing security. You've been hacked by OurMine team. Visit our website to secure yourself. So basically they hacked Shuhei Yoshida's account and then basically made the claim of, oh, we'll let it go. We were just testing the security. We'll let it go if Yoshida-san contacts us and signs up with our service.
Yeah. In other words, ransomware.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much. So I love the fact that they literally painted themselves on Twitter as being good guys by testing his security and doing all this stuff, but basically saying, oh, you want this back? No, you got to sign up to our service. Yeah, that's gonna go really well, OurMine. But, I mean, it's hard to avoid these, so I'm just going to say insert Sony hack joke here.
Yeah.
Return of Romney's War. Romney's
Yoshida-san,
War 2, Resurgence.
Okay, I would like to hope. I'm a hopeful person. I would like to hope that after a monumental hack like that, Sony would look at everybody who doesn't change their passwords in their office and just be like, "You're done fucked up, man." That's exactly how they would do it. How did this happen to frickin' Yoshida-san? He should be one of those guys who's like, "You're done fucked up, man."
Yeah, I'm looking at like the various postings and statements this group has made, and it's very telling that when one of the articles, when Wired is talking with them, and they said that the statement that they were given was written in less than perfect English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So there's not really a whole lot to go off of this, but I'm just going to open it up to the panel. Alex, your thoughts on the president of Worldwide Studios, the guy who should be shunning any person on his team for not changing his password. How do you feel about Yoshida-san getting hacked?
Poor guy. Sucks. Sucks a lot. That's how much I can really say.
Does this deem that the water cooler actually has to be poured on him or something? Like some horrible office prank has to happen because it happened to him?
I guess so.
This just in. He is playing Spider-Man in Spider-Man Homecoming. We're going to see Shuhei Yoshida-san in the Spider-Man tights. It's happening. Nah, I'm kidding. Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah. I'm just looking at this because there's even a change.org petition of people who want to get these guys shut down because, well, a lot of people are basically well, they're sick of the BS. Apparently, YouTube started to crack down on incidents where they hack YouTubers, and so it's not limited to just Twitter. But yeah, it's pretty appalling.
Yeah, I mean, you can't avoid it in that case, and I'm finding it difficult to feel bad for him though, because at this point, after having that monumental hack, and Sony has had quite a few hacks actually in the last few years. I still remember having to have all the Sony execs up on stage at E3 and all bowing and saying we are sorry because of the hack that happened there. So at that point, it's hard for me to feel bad for them. And it's hard for me to feel bad for Yoshida-san. I feel bad, but this is something that you should have since been prepared for. And I'm kind of surprised that Sony hasn't hammered it into you to change your password every month or however they got it, that you cover all of those bases. And unfortunately, that didn't happen for Yoshida-san, and now he's going to probably have to face some kind of repercussion at work because now his account is technically unreliable. So with that, there really isn't too much to add to the story. So final thoughts before we move on into the entertainment portion of this evening.
Wow, it says
These guys are dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says in the article, at the time of the writing, he still hasn't regained his account. So he's pretty much locked out.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say is these people are dicks.
Mm.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and go into the entertainment portion of this evening, which thankfully has a lot of positive news for me, at least to some extent. One of which, I'm laughing at this story, but I at least know of another panelist that's not here tonight that isn't, and I know that the Shadow Blazer probably kind of is. So I got Ghostman's YouTube password. You want it? I don't know, maybe. So in the news today was one Hideaki Anno. And just for mentioning his name, I already feel my spider sense tingling that I'm being flipped off from Japan. So in case people didn't actually know this, Hideaki Anno is actually he's the director of Resurgence?
Yeah.
Okay.
Co-director.
He is the co-director of Godzilla Resurgence. So this is the new Godzilla movie that is coming out. Is it this year?
Yeah,
This year in
actually,
Japan?
I think it's.
And in fact, Funimation just got the rights to Godzilla Resurgence, so we're going to be getting it here.
In fact, it should be out, if I recall, the 29th, so by next Friday in Japan, it should be out.
So with that being said, he was in a recent press conference, and during the press conference, he was then asked about his pet project, his soul, as he would call it, Evangelion. Alex, I need you to embody Eva fans right now in the fact that I have some bad news for you. Eva 4.0 still isn't out yet.
Whoa, someone called the press.
I was actually going more towards the rage angle, but okay.
Well, this movie was like, it's too late for raging. This movie was promised like 3-4 years ago, and it still hasn't come, and, Anno's been off doing God knows what. Well, we know what he's been doing.
We know what you've been doing. So he actually said in the interview, and I quote, "To me, Evangelion is my soul. It is a work that scrapes off bits of my soul. You could say it's the steel wool of my soul." No, he didn't say that. The previous work, Evangelion Shingeki Joban, which is Evangelion 3.0, you can not redo, scraped me down until I wasn't able to make anything anymore. Anno confessed that he felt saved by the opportunity to work on Godzilla Resurgence, and now I feel like I can continue working on Evangelion.
Let's hope, right?
Guaranteed, 6 months from now, he's going to make something along the lines of, "Fuck Evangelion!" Because that's what he does, okay? I don't want to be Mr. Negative here, but Anno has gone on the record as to saying he doesn't like Eva, he doesn't like Eva fans, he doesn't like the Eva cast, he doesn't like any of it, and he looks for things to do that aren't Eva. Obviously, he did this here with Godzilla Resurgence.
Okay, he does. let's be a little more clear. He doesn't hate it, but it is safe to say he really has a
I'm sorry,
love-hate
it's the steel wool of his soul.
He has a real love-hate relationship with his creation, and that is so interesting to me. That how much of a kind of this bizarre relationship he has developed with this over the years he's put into it. I mean, he poured his. It's easy to see. He poured his soul into it way back years ago, 20 years ago now.
You dare say he poured his sanity into it?
He did, and
literally.
I get, I mean, you can kind of attribute a lot of probably his mania as kind of his breakdowns, just because of all the problems they faced in the latter half of production. Budget cuts everywhere, networks threatening to shut them down, Gynax's financial troubles at the time, and it's just like you can see where he kind of got a little nuts at the end of Evangelion, which persuaded him to make the end of Evangelion, which I actually like, by the way. It's a pretty good movie, I think. And of course now he's back and he's doing these rebuild movies, remaking them from the ground up, essentially fresher than ever. New fancy animation with all the wonderful digital animation we have, and yet somehow it still tears him down to the point history repeats itself and he goes depressed again after finishing the third movie.
Can I just call
sorry
this
for this guy?
Can I just call this right now? In Eva 4.0, there will be a solid 20-minute segment of a random guy walking down a street in Tokyo for no other reason than he didn't want to work on Ava that week, and he decided to put this in the movie. Yeah, you heard me right, Ava fans, and I'm kind of an Ava fan, but that's End of Evangelion all over again. Because that crap happened, and I believe absolutely that he looked for reasons to not work on it.
I think he did. If I might go back to Shirobako for a moment, which I reviewed earlier this year, there's this running gag in the series about this one episode director, and I think who vaguely looks like Anno to me. I know there was already an Anno cameo, but there's
there's an Fooly Cooly, which was made by one of his apprentices, I believe.
Yeah.
He actually made one of the characters into Anno, roughly.
Yeah, and in Shirobako, there's this running gag of this episode director who consistently keeps trying to run away from having to work on this one anime.
Yep.
It's such a great bit. I kind of feeling
he kind of looks like Anno, doesn't he?
He does. So
yeah.
I must think that essentially is Anno without being Anno in that series. Even though again we had the full Anno cameo and the whole I think the fictional show was called Evangelion or something. Evangelion.
Yeah,
basically
something
replace
like that.
a few letters. Shirobako's a great anime. Please, everybody who's never watched it, watch it.
I'm trying to look back on your review of it. I think you actually did name it. So it's just like Evangelion or Avant-Gardian or something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Anno, back on the whole Anno bit here, it's like he really does have this bizarre love-hate relationship with his creation here. He loves it, but it simultaneously seems to destroy him every time he goes back to it. So I'm glad that he got a break to do Godzilla, that he's feeling refreshed and refurbished. We've talked about this on the show about sometimes directors who get themselves embedded in long franchises. It takes a toll on them emotionally and physically, that it's good that they can get away from it and take a break, and we generally encourage that.
Yeah, exactly. So, Romney, your thoughts on this recent confessions with Hideaki Anno?
Honestly, I can kind of understand where he's coming from in terms of needing to step away from it, but at the same time, given how long it's taking, I get the feeling that it's very much been poor planning. Ironically enough, I was actually listening to a podcast today done by a couple of TV writers. I've mentioned it before, Children of Tendu, with Javier Greeks, Mark Swatch, and Jose Molina, and this episode I was listening to was talking about a lot of these problems that showrunners make working on a TV show, and how sometimes showrunners try to get out of work of basically going into the writer's room and actually doing the work to actually get the episode written, and doing everything like, oh, I got to go to the editing bay, oh, I got to go to the costume department, oh, I got to go to the prop guys. And they were explaining that It's a common thing in American television as well, where people try to get out of actually doing their damn job.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm seeing here, because, yeah, I understand Anno is one of those, like, avant-garde sort of, like, auteurs, but at the same time, given how long it's been taking, it reeks of mismanagement. I mean, yeah, people may want to slug like, but that's his method. But yeah, I can see why people are a bit wary, especially with all the crap they went through with Ava towards the end of its run. And I'm just thinking, I can understand why. It's because if this is how he's going to work, I can see why people don't necessarily want to work with him, especially even after the final Ava film comes out. His career is going to take a while to recover.
That's the funniest part about this whole story for Anno, is that he actually was a really hard worker before Ava. And like we literally said, like, he poured his heart and his soul and his sanity into that franchise, as well as the budget. I mean, he blew the budget by the last couple of episodes. And so at that point, it's just like, he used to be this really efficient dude. He was really good at what he did, and now it's this one series, this one franchise that has just destroyed him from the inside out. And therefore, when he devotes himself to working on new movies or new storylines for it, he then gets into this extreme burnout of, I gotta go work on something else. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And you actually have a perfect example there where, yeah, directors like literally will start trying to find ways to get out of work. I mean, for crying out loud, Peter Jackson had to get into the hospital to be able to get out of working on The Hobbit for a couple of months.
Yeah, and so I understand people are excited, and I can understand that, yeah, he got burnt out, but at the same time, it's very much a case of at least just be upfront saying, hey, we had to push this back because of such and such reason. Now, I understand that's not really going to happen in the Japanese media industry because they're a very low-conflict, don't rock the boat sort of mentality. As much of an outsider Anno likes to portray himself as, that is still very much ingrained. And I can understand that he doesn't want to damage the chances of Godzilla resurgence because, well, that's actually something he's passionate about. He's a major tokusatsu and kaiju fan, so it's very much a sticky situation. And I mean, at least like saying, yeah, I'm sorry for the delay, but it's very much a case of, well, apology is one thing, but if you're not going to deliver, it's kind of a case of, if you're not going to deliver, then just say so.
It's basically along those lines, and I think I even said it jokingly to Alex when he took me to Ava 3.0 in theaters, which is like, if you don't want to work on Ava, just don't work on Ava. Like, go work on something else. Go do a new series that's maybe Ava inspired, and you can get out of it that way. But I actually think that I'm actually kind of agreeing with some of the Anno statements. I think it's literally bound to him. I don't know if he can ever not work on Evangelion, at least to some extent. Even if he wasn't like making a series, he'd be writing for it in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so we have it in the chat. I'm guessing 4.0 will be coming out around 2018 or 2019. That's optimistic. That's optimistic, my friends. 2021, 2025. That's my range right now. I'm calling it.
Yeah, and you'll basically be able to watch it in the C Lab.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Hands up to anybody
with your bizarro self.
Yeah, hands up to anybody who got that reference from Adult Swim.
I did. But I'm a geek like that. So, final thoughts before we move on into the next story here.
Well, obviously we've said our piece on Anno and Evangelion, but I gotta say, I still am really, really excited for Godzilla Resurgence. It really does look good, and I'm really glad Funimation was able to pick it up for a license. So here's hoping we at least get a one-night theatrical screening again for it.
Yeah. You know what? If they did that, then I would definitely be on board for it, even though that might actually mean that through some confluence of events, we'll find out that one of the dubbed actresses is Laura Bailey, and I will never, ever, ever hear the end of it.
Well, unless they go with what they did with the Attack on Titan movies, where they just showed it subbed. I mean, Funimation still hasn't released any home video version of the Attack on Titan live-action movies, so...
So let's go ahead and move on into the next story here, which is kind of a connection to a story that we talked about last week, which was that Legendary was actually looking to secure rights for a Pokemon live-action movie. Well, Legendary has landed some rights, but not in the way that you might think. In fact, he has given a justification for Jack to go offensive again tonight. Sorry, Aldo-san. I know that Aldo, somewhere off in the ether, is smacking me upside the head because the Detective Pikachu has re-entered the arena. Yes, the live-action movie that has been announced will focus on Detective Pikachu.
Awesome. Romney, I think you predicted the future, didn't you?
I think I did.
I think this was your idea.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm having a roll here. I keep calling all these predictions. I called it for EA's conference. I called it here.
Yeah. Just for you, Aldo. Just for you. Whoosh! There you go. But I hate to tell you, Detective Pikachu is here to stay. Because we are talking about Detective Pikachu. Pika Pika. So yeah, we're going to be getting a focus on the character that was introduced earlier this year in the Nintendo 3DS game, Great Detective Pikachu, which was released in Japan this past February. That version of the Pokemon Company's iconic character has been described as rather intelligent and peculiar. So all of the hooks that we've been able to get are based around this. It's going to be a live-action version of Detective Pikachu. I have to admit, I'm not entirely against the idea, since, I mean, when we first found out about Detective Pikachu, aside from the fact that I was being horribly offensive, I liked the idea. Mainly because the way that they were kind of painting it was going to be more like a Phoenix Wright-esque game where you actually had to solve mysteries, so I was okay with it. A live-action movie? I want to say I'm against it. I really do. I'm not. I like the idea.
Well, yeah. And the thing is, here, there's an actual story you can actually tell. I mean, even if you're keeping it simple, it's like, oh, well, a simple mystery. A simple, good mystery with Detective Pikachu. I mean, it's literally, that's why we still have Detective Conan on the air all these years. It's because, well, people like a good mystery. And so the idea practically writes itself.
It really does. And by the way, so we've actually had Aldo Gomez enter the chat tonight. Unfortunately, he's not feeling well enough to be able to get on the podcast, but he is already ripping me a new one. You're not sorry if you keep doing the accent. But I am sorry, Aldo-sama. I am sorry. But I love a Detective Pikachu.
Forgiveness, please.
Forgiveness, please. Detective Pikachu love you, Aldo-san. So there you go.
Buy your torches and pitchforks here, people.
Oh, thanks, Ronnie. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm on board with this. I'll go see it.
I'll totally see it myself. Because, yeah, again, at least you found something to anchor your premise to, as opposed to trying to tell the very serialized game or anime-styled story. Detective Pikachu can definitely work very well as a standalone story.
Yeah, and most importantly, it shows us an aspect of the Pokemon universe that most people haven't seen before, which is the big thing I kept arguing in all the times we covered of how to do a live-action Pokemon movie, is that we need to see something of the Pokemon universe that we don't get in the games, that we don't get in the anime, or the numerous manga that have come out around the franchise alone. And so here we're basically getting what I think it calls for, is that, oh, we're seeing a side of the Pokemon universe we don't normally see. We've got a simple character we can anchor to, a simple concept. I mean, so long as they get a good enough writer who knows how to actually write a good mystery that's family appropriate, which can be done. I mean, look at the Scooby-Doo cartoons. And so it's very much, I'm excited. I'm pretty excited. I just hope they get a good writer who knows what the hell they're doing.
No, that's the key right here. You need to have the right writer for this project. You need to have the right kind of motivation and the direction that you want to go. And I love the fact that the chat is all for the Detective Pikachu accent, and Aldo is fighting them all off and saying, "Don't enable him." Because his statement is, "I'm throwing up in my mouth, and it's not because I'm sick." And it's just like, that's a really good accent. Don't enable him.
Although I will have to call this out, it is very much him recycling his Hideo Kojima voice at a higher volume.
Well, I don't technically I like to make a joke that I have a Hideo Kojima voice, but I don't. Can I actually even do it? I am Hideo Kojima, and I am making Death Stranding, a game with Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead. There you go. Because you have to kind of sit in that pose that everybody's seen the picture of Hideo Kojima. I'm the guy that didn't give a fuck when he walked down completely digital-driven stairs at the Sony conference. Didn't give a fuck at all. So, there you go. Final thoughts. There really isn't a whole lot to add here because obviously they haven't announced an official writer or anything like that.
Yeah, I will make this statement though. People have asked about the petition to have Danny DeVito voice Detective Pikachu. There has been an official statement from Danny DeVito. His statement, and this is from the Paisley Center for Arts and Media, is literally like Danny DeVito was asking. Danny DeVito was like, "No, what the f is a Pokemon?"
Exactly.
Yeah, and even then, like, I wouldn't go with Danny. I would definitely not go with Danny DeVito.
Yeah, with a Detective Pikachu, I'm thinking I would want. I mean, granted, he's no longer around, but I would want to go with someone like kind of a Bob Hoskins, Eddie Valiant sort of voice for Detective Pikachu. Because if you look at the trailer and the way the game plays out, he's very much meant to be more of a serious detective. He's not Sherlock Holmes. He's very much more of a grittier American noir sort of detective. And so definitely someone who can do something kind of like Eddie Valiant, almost like Dick Tracy almost, but very kind of gruff, kind of a little bit of a bogey.
Do we have anybody that can actually do that, like, as far as voice actors that we can think of? I hate to say it, but, like, if you're thinking noir, I mean, Steve Bloom comes to mind. I don't know if I want Steve Bloom voicing Pikachu, though.
Yeah, that'd be too low. You'd want someone a little bit higher, a little bit more comedic. I mean, yeah, people want Danny DeVito, but I'm sure you could probably find a double who can imitate it. I mean, my brain thinking, what about Kevin Conroy? But Kevin Conroy has the same problems that you would basically hear. I mean, you would basically hear Bat Pikachu, and
that's the problem.
We
also have some suggestions from the chat. Sam Jackson for Detective Pikachu. No, not at all. Owen Wilson as James. I think this was suggested last week too.
Well, I mean, I could see it working, but that depends on whether they're going for a full comedic or not, and that's the real.
So, Aldo is making a compelling argument for Sam Jackson. Say I choose you again. Say it again. I pick a dare you, motherfucker.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of something off the top of my head that actually could match that kind of Eddie Valiant voice.
What about Dustin Hoffman?
I could see that.
Yeah, Dustin Hoffman might work.
Because there's no doubt they're gonna want to probably go for somebody with name recognition. So I don't look at any like voice actors.
That's why I'm kind of going with the voice actor stable because I don't know if I necessarily. Actually, you want to know the one that came to my mind? Is it Jim Cummings that is currently doing Winnie the Pooh for the Disney stable?
Winnie the Pooh and Tigger.
You could bring in Jim Cummings to do Detective Pikachu. I'd be okay with it.
I mean, a weird choice, and granted, this is a weird choice, but you could even try bringing someone like Lawrence, I think his name is pronounced like Lawrence LaMarche. He was the voice of Egon in the real Ghostbusters, the voice of Brain. I'm sure if you brought him in, you probably would actually be able to bring a unique spin to Detective Pikachu. I mean, wouldn't be exactly... Because he's a pretty good impersonation, and he actually does a really good... what's the actor's name? He was in Get Smart. He was the original Inspector Gadget. What was his name?
I know who you're talking about, but crap.
Yeah.
In the original Inspector Gadget.
Right now. I'm looking it up.
Yeah. Doing it live, people. Doing it live. Doug Walker voicing Detective Pikachu. No.
Not gonna happen in this.
No. Well, the problem is that I'd be worried if Detective Pikachu got angry. Because immediately his voice would jump about 10 octaves higher.
Don Adams.
Yeah, Don Adams. And the actor I was thinking of, Maurice LaMarche. Maurice LaMarche can actually do a really good Don Adams impersonation. And so, if you bring someone like him and have it be kind of like a Don Adams Inspector Gadget sort of voice, I think that could actually work for Detective Pikachu.
Probably. I have to admit, so we're actually talking about Owen Wilson as James, and I have to admit, even I would want to see Owen Wilson in a tutu. Yeah.
Frank Welker.
Frank Welker, yeah, he could do it. You don't need Eddie Valiant voice for Detective Pikachu. Look at Layton or even Bundle Ditch's Sherlock.
I think
Are we talking about Benedict? Or
I think they mean Layton. I wouldn't go. I mean, not to knock Chris Miller. He's a really good voice actor, but honestly, with the way the character is written in the games, he's not written like a Professor Layton gentlemanly type detective. He's very much modeled after like the American noir Humphrey Bogart type detectives. And so, as cool as it would be to see a Professor Layton sounding Pikachu, I just don't see it working because that's not what's been established in the games and in the way everything has been more or less marketed.
Well, and even in some cases, I actually don't like the idea of having a gruff, deep noir voice for Pikachu. I would actually like something more along the lines of the midline that was fitting into that characteristic kind of thing. That's why I suggested things like Jim Cummings, because I think he would hit something like right in the middle.
Well, yeah, and that's why I kind of go with someone like Maurice LaMarche as well, because he's got the range that he could probably find some sort. I mean, I'm thinking, if you get someone to do a Don Adams voice, that would actually be you would get it locked on because you've got the cute, cuddly Pikachu who's got like the Inspector Gadget voice.
Johnny Young Bosch as Pikachu.
Again, don't really bank on voice actors to possibly do this.
I only want that just so that I can see Pikachu go, "Alrighty, everybody, love and peace!"
Yeah, again, and keep in mind, they haven't even written a script. They're not even nearly close to casting. If they were trying to go with any major names, I mean, if they're going for a major name, then, well, maybe Paul Giamatti would probably be an initial choice, because there you get kind of a nice balance. One, it's a big Hollywood name. It's like, oh, Paul Giamatti is Detective Pikachu, and he's got the range enough to actually pull it off, at least based on some of the voice work that he's done in the past. So
Paul Giamatti?
Yeah. He was in the Ratchet and Clank movie most recently, is his most recent.
I'm okay with it. Stephen Romney is Pikachu.
No.
I don't know, man. You did a really, really mean old man.
Well, I'm flattered, but I don't think I've got that kind of range. I mean, not without a lot, like years and years of training.
Oh, John Goodman.
John Goodman, yeah, that might be another good one.
I could see it. It would depend on the writing. It really would.
I will admit, like, I wouldn't mind a crack at Detective Pikachu, and no, although I wouldn't go for the offensive accent, I'd actually go for something legit. But that's just me. So final thoughts before we move on into the next story here, because I mean, there's only so many levels of offensive we can hit.
Please get a good writer, Legendary. Please.
Yes. So let's go ahead and go into the next story here, which is a little bit of a downer because we've now heard of another passing within Hollywood, and a passing that is kind of prominent, at least to my generation, not necessarily to you guys. That is director Gary Marshall. He's most prominently known for Pretty Woman, as well as the creator of classic sitcoms like Happy Days, has unfortunately passed away. He has passed away at the age of 81. So we also know that Marshall has passed away from complications associated with pneumonia, so it sounds to me like more natural causes, old age, kind of stepped in for this one. Now, Marshall began his career in the 50s and early 60s writing on popular sitcoms like I Love Lucy and Dick Van Dyke, before making a name for himself with his own creations like Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy. His first movie was Young Doctors in Love in 1982, and he followed it with early hits The Flamingo Kid and Beaches. So, oh, great, Beaches. That hurts. I can't watch that movie anymore. And also, if you guys want more recent work that he's done, he actually did work on The Princess Diaries, coming out in 2001. He worked on Pretty Woman, Valentine's Day, which is in 2010, and New Year's Eve in 2011. So, and he also was a guest. Oh, and he also apparently was a guest voice on The Simpsons. So, quick thoughts on Gary Marshall's passing. I, of course, will miss him because it wasn't necessarily my generation that Happy Days happened, but I actually did watch a lot of his sitcom work and enjoyed quite a bit of it. It's one of the reasons why I know Henry Winkler, I think is his name, the guy who played Fonz, right. And when he came in and did sitcoms and other series recently, I know that he was one of the bigger staples on Royal Pains when that was on USA at the time. So I will miss him, but unfortunately, it sounds to me like at 81, that's probably a good time to go, and at least he kind of went naturally. So, we don't have to worry, or we don't have to report that he died due to complications of cancer, or that, well, an accident happened. So, any thoughts you guys have to offer for Gary Marshall?
Unfortunately, I'm not as familiar with his work as I feel I should be. And yeah, I mean, I've seen some episodes of Happy Days, Mork and Mindy, and The Odd Couple. I've seen some episodes of the shows that he was in charge of. I just hadn't really seen enough of his feature work, enough to really get a feel on his style. I mean, it's obvious he was very influential, so yeah, it's sad to see him go, but at the same time, he's been working since the 50s, and television is a very stressful industry, so the fact that he made it to 81 is amazing in and of itself, so...
Yep. Especially in a high-stress environment like Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You know, most of my exposure to any of Gary Marshall's work would be through Happy Days, because I watched that quite a bit when I was fairly young, when we started getting reruns of Happy Days and that, so I never watched a great deal of his movies because he mostly made romantic comedies. I'm not really a rom-com person myself, so nothing against the guy personally. I've seen The Princess Diaries. I wouldn't call it a great film, really, but it is, yeah, it's sad to see him go. I know. I've seen him around. He's just one of those guys you see around and you kind of recognize him and you get the charm with him.
Mm-hmm. No, I've actually heard he's a fairly decent guy in interviews and things like that. So it's one of those things that maybe you'd want to meet him at one point, but unfortunately that is not possible. And obviously, we are sad to see him go. We're sad to see creative minds go, but at the same time, I'm just happy that we don't have to report that because of drug complications or things like that. Final thoughts before we move on into the next story, which is kind of a two-pronged one.
Not really. It's just sad to see him go, and obviously people are still paying homage to a lot of the shows he started up in the industry, so yeah, thanks for the legacy, I guess. I don't have as much to say, but it's obvious that he was very influential on the television industry, helped discover a lot of well-known actors like Robin Williams, who started on as Mork on Happy Days, which spun off into Mork and Mindy, discovered Henry Winkler as the Fonz, and on and on and on and on and on. So obviously, he's left his legacy on the entertainment industry that I don't think people will be forgetting for quite some time.
Yep, exactly. So let's see. The only thing that I've seen from Gary Marshall works was Happy Days, and I think that's it. Yeah, because unfortunately, a lot of Gary Marshall's work was back in the sitcom days. But I mean, you can look at it from this perspective. He helped discover Robin Williams, and if that hadn't happened, then we wouldn't have had all the great roles that Robin Williams played, or at least we may have gotten them later. So at that point, I'm at least thankful that we got stuff like that, Henry Winkler, obviously, and also some of the other characters that he was able to help cultivate and create and made it onto other various sitcoms and whatnot. So the next story that we have is actually kind of two-pronged, and I'm going to go into the good news. Well, it's both good news, but there is a little bit of crow that Drac has to eat tonight because Drac done effed up a couple of months ago. But let's go ahead and get into the good part of this, which is Transformers fans rejoice. I didn't even realize that this was the 30th anniversary for the original movie, but it is. In honor of the 30th anniversary of release of Transformers the movie, we are going to be getting a brand new bundle on that movie, basically bringing it up to 4K resolution, being able to give digital, or being able to bring it to Blu-ray, to give a DVD release as well as a digital copy, but also being able to add extra features into it, like including a documentary on the film, featurettes about art and restoration, trailers, TV spots, animated storyboards, and audio commentary with director Nelson Shin, story consultant Flint Dill, and voice actress Susan Blue, who actually, if you guys didn't know that, fellow Transformers fans rejoice, she is the original RC. She is the original female Transformer. So you guys can all look forward to that. I'm excited, obviously, for this because I'm a big fan of this movie. I actually, when I get into the discussion with people of we never had a decent Transformers movie, well, you only know of the Michael Bay ones. There is actually a really kick-ass Transformers movie, and it came out in the 80s, and it's great. And it was
animated by Toei.
Yeah, partially animated by Toei. A lot of the better action sequences in that were animated by Toei themselves, so the big guys in anime. It's actually, in a lot of cases, I've seen many fans actually claim that Transformers the movie was their gateway drug into anime, because then they got into the animation style from that, as well as other things like Voltron. But overall, I'm excited, mainly because it's the 30th freaking anniversary. And I still remember back in the day, like, because I caught it in theaters during a re-release, I believe. I gotta tell this story, and I know people don't want me to tell this story, but when I saw Transformers the movie in theaters, and I did, I remember this wholeheartedly because it was right next to a theater that was showing a re-release at the time of Bambi. Man, parents, it sucked to be a parent that day. Because if your kids weren't crying about Bambi's mom, they were crying about Optimus Prime. So I still remember like a lot of kids walking out of those theaters and just bawling. And you know what? I was one of them. And I went to Transformers. So I have no problem admitting I cried for Optimus Prime. I cried for Autobot Jesus. Okay, that just happened. So with that, I'm obviously excited. Alex or Romney, do you guys have anything additional to add with this release? Are you going to get it? Kind of thing.
Well, I'm not as big of diehard of a Transformer fan. I mean, I might get it just by virtue of it being like an animated film that of notable quality, of kind of its place in animation history compared to some of the other stuff that had come out around it. And so I might get it by virtue of that, but I'm not as much of a diehard of a Transformers fan since, again, I grew up kind of during the Beast Wars era, and even then I wasn't really into that as I was into other shows at the time. So
that's the thing, is like, I love Beast Wars. I'm actually very happy that now it's officially considered canon within the Transformers timeline. Apparently, they have to go to BotCon and visit with a council to be able to get that approved, and Beast Wars just barely got that approved. Beast Wars, not Beast Machines. So at that point, I mean, I'm a diehard Transformers fan, and I will look for reasons to be able to purchase this. I still love it even to this day just because of the voice acting and also all of the music that came out of it. While I was actually setting things up for the podcast, I was listening to the soundtrack for it. So
yep, well, it's available for pre-order on Shop Factory's website, and if you order it through them, they'll actually like ship it ahead of release to people who pre-order it through their website, because that's something they've done for the Sentai DVDs and done for like other highly anticipated releases. They're actually a pretty cool company.
Yeah, no, I really like it. Alex, do you have any thoughts on this matter aside from you're watching this? Damn it.
Yeah, I will watch it. I promised you I'll watch it. So, but like Romney, I'm not really a diehard Transformers fans, and really plural fans. God, it's late.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not really a huge into Transformers, but certainly I'm more than happy if you get this movie out. I'll sit down and I'll watch it myself, and see what all the fuss is about, because I know a lot of Transformers fans do revere this movie.
Yeah, I'm already seeing also in the chat that we have a couple of other people who aren't into the series. They grew up or they remember watching Beast Wars, but that's about it, which is a crying shame, because it's one of those times, and I've said it numerous times when I cover the Michael Bay Transformers movies, it actually pisses me off that where there is a lot of valid lore for Michael Bay to go into, he just doesn't care. And this is one of the perfect examples of it. I mean, you've got an all-star cast, at least at the time. I mean, for crying out loud, you had Leonard Nimoy, who came back later to voice a Transformer in the third movie, Dark of the Moon. He played the original Galvatron. And I will always remember him for that, which is kind of funny because I just barely saw Star Trek Beyond today, so I'm already feeling very nostalgic for Leonard Nimoy, and then this gets brought up. It's one of the, I've actually said, like, with you and I'm going to open it up to the rest of the Geek News crew. You guys want to come over and watch Transformers, we'll make a thing out of it. I may even show like a couple of G1 episodes just to give people kind of a feel for how the series interacted and how it worked with the movie. I mean, for crying out loud, you have to see it at least for one stinking reason. I mean, everybody thinks that the Stormtroopers were the worst shots in the universe. I mean, they never saw the Autobots and Decepticons, man. They couldn't hit a blindside with the barn. They couldn't do it. It couldn't happen. So at that point, I'm going to open that up to people. If we want to make a thing of it, we can. And I will show you Transformers the movie. Now, like I said, so final thoughts before I go into this next part, because, well, yeah. I'm sorry, TG, I cannot fly you out from Minnesota. That can't happen. So, let's just go ahead and get into it. So Drac actually has to. This is a Transformers-related story, and I guess it got additional details at Comic-Con, at least from what I'm hearing. But Drek has to eat some crow tonight, because people might remember back in December or January, I even said it on the podcast, I got flooded, absolutely flooded, with Transformers 5 stories for Transformers The Last Night. Basically saying, here's the poster, here's the official name, we're going to get Unicron as the villain, we're going to get, or Megatron's confirmed, and all that. And so I made my point kind of clear that I didn't want to cover Transformers The Last Night, because I'm not going to go see it. Now, the Shadow Blazer has already volunteered to go see it, even though nobody asked him to. And nobody's holding it against him if he didn't want to go. But I basically took a lot of that and basically piled it all up and threw it into my deleted cache. And unfortunately, I actually pissed off a listener doing that, because they sent me a story that was not connected to The Last Night. It was Transformers related, but it was not connected to the movie. And the only justification that I can give here, and since then I've sent like a full formal apology to this person, because I do not like that this happened, and I do really feel bad. But my guess is that when I got the email, it said Transformers in it, and I bunched it in like the rest and just threw it away. I wasn't willing to talk about it at all. And that was the announcement for a new series of Transformers that is being helmed by Machinima, called Combiner Wars. And I guess we've gotten some new trailers for it. It's going to be G1 inspired, so you're going to get G1 Starscream, you're going to get G1 Optimus Prime, G1 Rodimus Prime, for crying out loud, and you're going to get a full-on story that it's basically Transformers versus Combiners, and wanted to know my thoughts on it. I've since seen the trailer. I absolutely love it. It's coming out August 2nd, so I'm definitely going to watch it, if for no other reason than to just get some good old-fashioned Transformers nostalgia out of it. Am I expecting it to be the greatest thing since sliced bread? Probably not. But I do feel bad that, unfortunately, that story got thrown away. And like I said, I've since offered my apologies and promised that I'm going to work really hard for that to not happen. And the chat is already going a little nuts here. So suffer is a strong word. Ghostbusters was a perfectly... Aldo, you and I are going to have to disagree, my friend. That's just going to be the way it goes. But yeah, so I'm going to try and dedicate myself a little bit more and make sure that when I toss a story, it's not just because it has one word in common with another thing that's happening. So... do you guys have any thoughts? Maybe you guys want to pick on me so that this guy can feel better about what I did.
All we can say is sorry, dear poster who sent that story. We're sorry.
We'll do better next time, I promise. But I'm sorry. I'm not seeing Last Night. It's not happening.
I keep hearing Last Night. I mean, I've seen like the poster, but I just keep hearing Transformers Last Night. So is this Optimus waking up from a hangover?
Waking up in the Shire.
Yeah,
I am Gandalf the Prime, and I come to you now at the turn of the tide.
Yeah, I just hear like Optimus just like, what happened? Last thing I remember, I was talking to Mark Wahlberg.
I'm a robot sexist. Well, I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm a robot sexist, and also, according to my hate mail, I officially hate Pokemon Go because I don't have it. So, well, I don't know what to tell you guys.
I don't have it either. Does that mean I hate it too?
Well, you have justification for it. I actually have a smartphone, and I don't have it. So, I actually clarified that. So, yeah, that's pretty much it, and we still do have some time to go over it, so let's go ahead and get in some of the bonus stories that I actually do keep, just in case we're running a little early. And one of which actually was the announcement that Funimation has acquired the rights to Toho's 2016 Godzilla Resurgence. So at this point, we know that it's coming out in late 2016 to theaters. It's just going to have it's a limited run, I think, right? It's not going to be like a full-on release.
Yeah, usually.
So it's going to open up in Japan on July 29th, and then later in 2016, U.S. shores will get Godzilla Resurgence. And I'll admit, I'm just excited for it because we've already seen the trailer for it. Hideaki Anno aside, I'm absolutely excited to be able to get to see Godzilla Resurgence. And maybe, did they actually say if they're going to get the DVD rights too?
I'm not sure. Let's see here.
I'm looking through it right now, and I'm not necessarily seeing it just yet that they've acquired the DVD rights.
Let me see.
Because DVD distribution would be awesome too, if I could get that. Actually, this would be a good. Did we actually get the? Did we get Attack on Titan the movie here?
Yeah, we did.
We got theatrical releases, but they haven't released any. They haven't released either of them on home video.
This came in from Aldo. Clearly, you both just hate fun in childhoods.
Okay,
Yeah,
here we go. I found this. Funimation has, this came out on Friday. Funimation has announced more details on Friday for its license of Toho's Godzilla Resurgence film. The company has licensed the theatrical, home entertainment, video on demand, and broadcast rights for the film, and license covers North America, Central America, South America, the Caribbean, and just the Caribbean. So those territories are all included. And
Okay.
Still plans to release the film in theaters late 2016.
So there we go. They have the home video rights. And my guess, in case of the Attack on Titan thing, I'm thinking that maybe they had the home video rights, but because of how poorly Attack on Titan the movie was received, they probably decided not to release it, because I know that it's been hard to actually even get like copies of the live-action film, even in Japan. I mean, the only place that I could find that actually sells it has been the Hong Kong Blu-rays, and that's it.
I love the fact that Aldo's getting on my case. We went to them together. I'm not talking about the theater, Aldo. I'm talking about like the DVD distribution rights. I don't know if we actually got that, mainly because I was concerned about how well it did.
Well, yeah, it's because I keep actually waiting for them to release the DVDs because I still want to make the one film cut of the live-action Attack on Titan movies because, well, I want to see if I can actually do it. But to get back on point, with this licensing of Godzilla, I mean, good on Funimation for snagging it up. I'm kind of glad it didn't default to Warner Brothers right away because I'm one of the people that didn't like Legendary's take on Godzilla because my thought is that they made the mistake of trying to introduce their own monster right away instead of, laying down the groundwork for their take on Godzilla. Because we didn't need the Mutos. We really didn't. I mean, understand, but we want Godzilla to find another monster. Well, yeah, but...
No, they really needed to slate another monster that people knew for that particular movie.
And plus
or just have Godzilla be the villain, which is what the trailers kind of signify.
I really feel that way.
And it also should help that you shouldn't make us think Bryan Cranston is the main character and then kill him off 20 minutes in. I mean, seriously, that was the thing that made me the most angry because you take the one character that has the main motivation of trying to uncover the truth about Godzilla, and you kill him off and we're stuck with his son who couldn't really care less for the rest of the film. I'm just like, why? Why?
But we at least got a meme out of it, Romney. I mean, because I love the Bryan Cranston meme of him banging against the glass window, dressed up in a Zordon head or whatever it's going to be at that given moment.
Well, yeah, and again, it's just from a writing standpoint, I had my problems with the Gareth Edwards Godzilla because it was both the best and the worst aspects of the Godzilla movies, where it was very much, it's just them basically making a fan film with billions and billions of dollars with their own unique design monsters, and it's, again, my review's up on my channel, people. You can watch it to get my thoughts on there. And I'm actually kind of excited for this new Godzilla because, one, it's being directed by a director who has a passionate interest in the kaiju genre, which Hideaki Anno has gone on record as a major fan of tokusatsu, kaiju, stuff like Ultraman, Super Sentai, Godzilla. So it's very much, this is being directed by someone who has a genuine love for the material, a genuine love for the franchise, but also wants to actually do something unique with it. A lot of the interviews are citing how they're trying to basically draw the parallels with a lot of the various real-world disasters, like the attack on September 11th, the tsunami on March 11th, the subsequent Fukushima nuclear crisis, stuff like that. And that's why I always maintain that my favorite of the films is the original, because it adds that layer of realism, that layer of, this is a real disaster. This isn't just monsters, people in monster suits fighting each other. This is like a real disaster people are dealing with, and that's what I like about when they go this route with Godzilla, which is why I'm really excited, because, like, okay, you've got someone who's passionate, but also wants to actually tell a genuinely good story with it.
Yeah. I'll admit, I'm just excited that Godzilla Resurgence is coming to U.S. shores. I'm not necessarily concerned about how it gets here. If I want a limited theater run just because I want to see it on the big screen, but at least if I got a Blu-ray out of it, I'd be okay with it, just because I want to see a Toho Godzilla film. And so I'm happy that Funimation got the rights to it. Although somebody actually just barely brought up, I wonder if the movie is going to be dubbed. I hope not. Because if it's Funimation, that means their stable is going to be used, which means I'm going to get endlessly harassed when Laura Bailey shows up as one of the female characters, and I'm never going to let it down.
Laura Bailey does barely anything in Funimation anymore.
Yeah,
So,
I think I'd be
even if it does get dubbed, I kind of doubt she'll be in it.
Yeah, I'd be more worried we'd end up with more banana oil lines. Thumbs, like, hands up if anybody gets that reference.
And even though I'm a huge advocate of it, I love anime dubbing, but I don't like dubbing in live action movies. It never looks right.
Sometimes it can work, sometimes it can't. I mean, it's something that the only times I've seen it work is when the people actually shooting the live action scenes actually account for it. I mean, the best example, sadly, is when you look at the Japanese dub of Resident Evil, the game, and how the voices were basically how the actors were directed to talk a certain way, so that way it would actually sync up with the Japanese dialogue.
Yeah. Aldo just put up in the chat, get in the effing city, Godzilla, but father, we'll bring Ray out to destroy the city. Wow. Well, we're just, because, I mean, we're having nothing but references back to Anno.
Well, sadly, it's been creeping into my life because, I mean, literally at the end of issue 4 of the Power Rangers comic, the monster that you see at the end basically looks like an Ava unit.
Yeah, wow. But yeah, I'm overall excited because we're going to be able to get Godzilla Resurgence not only in a limited theater run, which if we can make it work, I would love to be able to do a group review of it for you guys. But yeah, I'll at least be excited for a Blu-ray disc. Final thoughts before we move on into the next story here.
I'm excited. It has the actress from Attack on Titan, the live-action Attack on Titan movies, the one with the I never remember her name. The one with the goggles. She was my favorite part of those movies.
I like her. This one. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on into the next story. And this next one, I'm actually going to interject in because this just barely came in from Comic-Con 2016. So we've talked about a couple of the Marvel movies and their castings over time, and we just barely got one of the ones we talked about just barely got casted, and that is Captain Marvel. So at Comic-Con, they just barely confirmed that Brie Larson is confirmed as Captain Marvel. I do not personally know Brie Larson, at least I don't think I do. She looks kind of familiar.
Looking it up. Need to put the face to the name.
Yeah, so Marvel confirmed a Captain Marvel movie back in 2014, and casting rumors have circulated ever since, ranging from Rebecca Ferguson to Olivia Wilde to Jessica Chastain, and even a fan campaign for UFC fighter Ronda Rousey.
Which I was against.
Brie Larson. Yeah, we both kind of were against it, and I even remember hearing of a campaign for, I can't remember her name, Starbuck from the new Battlestar Galactica, where I wanted her to also be part of it.
Yeah, looking at Brie
Larson, Scott Pilgrim. Oh, okay. I think I know who you're talking about, Aldo. And we even have an image up on the. Let me go ahead and link this to you guys so that we can all be on the same page. This just barely, I guess, just barely broke, at least today for Comic-Con. There you go. There is the story confirming that Brie Larson has been cast for Captain Marvel, aka Miss Marvel. Scott's ex? I think I know who you're talking about, Aldo. It's been a long time since I've seen Scott Pilgrim. Captain Marvel played by Shadow Blazer 3000. Yes, that's exactly what should happen.
Well, technically, any character in the Marvel Universe can more or less assume the powers of Captain Marvel. I mean, Spider-Man's assumed the powers. The powers have basically gone from person to person, so if they want to show a scrawny Captain Marvel, it makes sense in the universe.
I am not an actor, so...
Again, if Peter Parker was able to become Captain Marvel, anything's possible, so...
Skateboarder. Oh, was that the second X, Aldo, that he took on? The one that was the actor?
She played Envy Adams in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Yeah, I'm trying to double check that. She played the X, but...
Let's see.
She was the one dating the vegan.
Yeah, that was the... No, that's the third one. Okay. I think I know who you're talking about. We also do even have a portrait for it. I'm not against it. She looks like she would...
I can see it.
Yeah, she could definitely get into the Captain Marvel uniform, and I'd be okay with it. But obviously my biggest concern there is I want to make sure that she knows what she's walking into, and that the writers are going to be able to do a good job with Captain Marvel. Especially since I think Captain Marvel is the start of Wave 4 for Marvel, I believe.
Yeah, or at the very least, they're going to have to bring her in during the Infinity War movies because, well, that's a conflict that more or less spans the entire Marvel universe, like it or not. And given that there's certain parts of the Marvel universe that they don't have access to for one reason or another, we're going to at least see her at the end of Phase 3 as the kickoff into Phase 4. It's definitely going to be a bit messy given that the Infinity War movies are being split into 2 chunks.
Yep. So, Alex, do you have any thoughts on Brie Larson being cast for Captain Marvel?
Can't say I've seen a single Brie Adams role, so no real opinions here. It'll just be, I'll know when I see the movie if she's any good or not, and I don't know anything about Captain Marvel either, so no real expectations going into this. It's just, I'll see how the movie turns out.
Yeah, to kind of give a brief primer for people who aren't as familiar, and granted, my familiarity with Captain Marvel is mainly just because of some of the plot details in the initial run of Young Avengers, but basically, Captain Marvel is a member, like the original Captain Marvel was a member of the Kree race, which is basically a warrior race. Yeah. They're basically kind of like space Spartans, for lack of a better term, very much war-driven and stuff like that, and so basically, he was a member of the Kree race that got, well, the powers cosmic, and was basically, space Superman. But the idea is that the powers could transfer from person to person, whether they had Kree DNA, either by birth or by transfusion in the case of Miss Marvel, so on and so forth, and that's kind of that's the basic gist of it. The only reason I remember it is because, well, the Kree and the Skrulls frequently have wars with each other, and the main character of one of the main characters of Young Avengers, Hulkling, is half Kree and half Skrull, which causes a whole bunch of drama.
Yep. So, final thoughts before we move on into the next story. And this one is going to please Aldo. I have a feeling on that one.
Yeah, to kind of add my thoughts, I can see it. I'm going to withhold judgment until I at least see a trailer, until I at least see how they're designing the suit, until I actually have more of a visual of where they're going with it, like who's writing it, who's directing it, how they're going to actually approach the character. Because
I agree.
Even if they have ideal casting, if the script is shit, the movie is still going to be shit. For lack of a better term, I apologize for the language, but there's no other way to say it.
Yep. Alex, final thoughts before we move on to the next story?
Nothing more to really add.
Okay. So the next story that we have, this broke 2 days ago, and a listener brought it to my attention for dear Aldo, as well as for myself. So one of the other announcements that came out of Comic-Con was that we got a full-on trailer for Wonder Woman. I have to admit, I have not seen this trailer yet. I just barely noticed that it hit the YouTube circuits.
Yeah, I've only seen a few stills, but I will say this. There's actual color!
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Romney, because, well, the thing that got brought to my attention was the poster for the movie, and, oh my gosh, we have actual color! And bright colors! Can you tell that Zack Snyder isn't working on this, people? Can you tell?
Silly Drax, silly Romney. Everybody knows real is brown. Real is brown. This is way too colorful.
If that's real, then I don't want to be real.
Yeah, we're debating the realness. Like, what the?
Sorry,
like,
I messed around with it.
Well, yeah, it's just I was seeing, like, the whole, like, oh, where I'm seeing my face in the actual stream. It was throwing my brain off a little bit. But,
yeah, sorry.
Yeah. It's just, the whole like, oh, but real is proud. We're talking about people who could fly and punch space aliens. I mean,
It's true.
really, it's just there's no point in trying to go for, oh, but real is proud. Like, again, space aliens and monsters made out of like dead Kryptonians. It's just it's a fool's errand. It really is.
In all seriousness, it really does look good, and I'm really looking forward to seeing a Wonder Woman movie. I've been wanting to see more Wonder Woman for quite a while, really, because I didn't really watch any like the old '70s series, but because I just remember reading.
Did you watch? You have access to Netflix now. Have you watched any of the Justice League stuff?
No, not on Netflix, but I've seen like Justice League episodes here and there from Cartoon Network before. So
yeah, so I mean, obviously, I think this is such a great step in the right direction. I can't say it any better than that. It's actual bright colors. It's almost like we're going to a superhero movie. So as you guys can kind of see, obviously the darkness is being taken out of it that Zack Snyder put in, and we now have bright golds and reds and blues. I have to admit, I have not seen the trailer just yet for Wonder Woman, but if this is the direction that they're going, I'm that much more excited for it.
I'm just like, the thought that popped into my mind was like, okay, how long before Zack fucks it up? That's literally like my first thoughts, like, oh, we have color. It's actually going in an interesting direction. How long before Zack ruins it?
I'm glad you brought that up because Aldo has kind of the same theory. His theory is that Snyder is colorblind and uses muted colors to hide it. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
Yeah, neither would I.
The only thing I'm kind of worried about is that people are going to think that I'm going to get dragged to this because apparently I don't like Gal Gadot, and that's not the case. In fact, I actually think she was one of the better things in Batman v Superman. And I think we all pretty much said we'd love to see Wonder Woman just to see more from this character.
Yeah, and it's just the thing that we didn't like about Batman v Superman is not any of the characters. It's Zack Snyder. We've made that abundantly clear.
Yes, that's the perfect thing to say here, is that this is very clear. It's not Zack Snyder. Oh my gosh, we might actually have a living, breathing DC movie universe that isn't dark, black, and gray, okay? And brown and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, with all the sad Batmen running around, except they're not Batman, they're all the other superheroes, but they're all written like Batman.
Oh, and according to Aldo, Snyder's been kicked off of power positions in DC politics as per Ben Affleck's request.
Very nice. You go, Ben. You go.
Little
Ben.
victories here and there. I'm happy about that. So, well, I mean, at that point, he's still in... Aldo, you're going to have to confirm this. He's still in charge of Justice League, isn't it?
Doing it live.
Yeah, we're doing the live, people.
Yeah, because Aldo was communicating through live chat, so we have to actually wait for it to come in.
Yeah, before people jump down and start, he's not feeling well, so we're not going to bring him into the podcast to wreck his voice. But while we're working on that, so yeah, he's still on for it,
yeah,
which is unfortunate. But I mean, at that point, we're already liking what we're seeing with Suicide Squad, and also with Wonder Woman. We haven't seen much from Flash movie or. What's the next one that was it Aquaman before Justice League?
Yeah. And then we've also got Cyborg, which I'm still
baffled. Cyborg's after Justice League.
Yeah. Which am I the only one who's still baffled? Like, why did he get promoted to Justice League? I mean, out of all the Titans, why him?
I think it's more along the lines of recent developments where he's become a part of the Justice League. Because that was actually my question too, where he was a Titan as far as I'm concerned. He still is a Titan as far as I'm concerned. And even in more recent storylines, they've actually said that he does have a connection to the original Titans still. So, I'm not sure. All I care about is the fact that we actually might have DC movies that have color, that have good humor, and that don't have mothers named Martha.
And most importantly, that you can actually tell what the hell is going on screen, and not everything is in a dark, bleak blur where everything just bleeds together in an action scene.
So yeah, that pretty much confirmed it. Aldo said it's been since the New 52 that he's been a Justice League member right off the bat. So okay, so this is a recent innovation, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, TG, you keep on referring to a Ghost Man, and I'm just not seeing him. I'm not seeing any of his stuff now. I feel bad. I feel bad. Oh, well. So final thoughts before we move on. Actually, we probably need to wrap things up because we're getting pretty close to our ending time. But final thoughts on the movie poster and also the fact that we got a trailer. I don't know. Maybe next week we'll try and do an analysis of the Wonder Woman trailer. Minus Romney. Romney doesn't really do the trailer analysis.
Yeah, I again, people, it's not that I avoid trailers. I'm not like to the degree that Leonard Maltin avoids trailers. I don't like watching them online. I prefer to watch them when I'm in a theater because then it's like it gives me a better indication of how the film's actually going to look when I go see it in theaters because I've been hyped up by trailers before and I've been disappointed. And so I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm going to avoid the hype cycle. If I see it in theaters, I see it in theaters, but that's it.
Yeah. So yeah, final thoughts on the poster and all the color. So great color.
We'll need to sing Coat of Many Colors.
Yeah, well,
it is for Coat of Many Colors.
Let's just hope that no one's given any notes saying that the pants have to be darkened.
Stephen Romney is the Ghost Man. Okay, there you go. So apparently he is the Ghost Man. Oh, because okay, I think I may get it now because he's not in the chat. So he's not in the chat because we need his analysis up here, people.
Well, yeah. The thing is, if I tried loading the live chat, everything would slow down to a crawl, and my computer would basically just pull out the revolver and just go. That was a dark joke. I don't know why I went that dark.
I'm actually honestly surprised that my computer hasn't just broken down, just its brain been exploding because of how much stuff I have running during a live podcast.
Yeah, no, I gotta say, that joke was dark even for me. If people were offended, I do apologize. I'm just like, oh, wow, that was dark.
There's a Justice League trailer, too. We have an official Justice League trailer.
Looks like we're gonna have to do a Comic-Con follow-up.
Yeah, well, I already figured that we were going to have to do that next week because we're still getting stories here and there. I mean, we obviously also didn't cover all the Star Wars Rebels news, and there's a new Blair Witch sequel and all that. So. And
then there's also the Power Rangers stuff they've been doing as well for the upcoming movie. Like, not really like trailers stuff like that, but they've been unveiling the toys, the costumes, which seeing the costumes actualized as toys, I'm kind of, that's all I can say.
Wait, there's color and humor in the Justice League trailer? You're going to have to pinch me, Aldo. I don't believe you. If Zack Snyder's still in charge, I don't believe you.
Unless he's basically being reined in by the people at Warner Bros., which, again, Zack Snyder is the kind of filmmaker that if he's actually if they put him in the same type of limitations, like, basically, there are three types of people. Zack Snyder, Alan Moore, Mark Miller. They are the kind of people that, if you put them in the box that they need to be in, they can actually turn out some great work. But the thing is, you have to put them in the box.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to be doing a full-on Comic-Con follow-up for the entertainment portion next week. But, so, yeah, we've done our final thoughts and all that, and actually we do need to wrap things up because we are getting really close to our end time. So let's go ahead and start doing that. If people want to get a hold of us to be able to give various feedback that they would like to give on our viewpoints on the stories or just want to get in touch with us, Alex, how do they do that with you, especially with you, Mr. Sonic fan?
Me being the Sonic fan. Well, of course, my YouTube channel, which I do all my work here, is Shadow Blizzard 3000. That's the main channel, and that's the one I primarily use. I only use Shadow Blizzard 3000 X2 when I get slammed with copyright bullshit strikes and whatnot. Other than that, but now I'm back to full privileges on YouTube, so I get back to using my main channel. Yay! And of course, you can find me on social networking. Just follow me at Twitter. That's where I'm the most active when it comes to promoting anything I do. So Twitter at AlexJShort is my handle.
Okay. Stephen Romney, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Well, you can always find me here on YouTube at youtube.com/StudioGhostUtah. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney'sReviews, and I'm also on Twitter at RomneyReviews. It's a lot easier to do this now that I only have 3 sites that I go through. And as for this week's recommendations for Romney's Reading Club, I'm recommending the Udon Entertainment Street Fighter Legends Sakura trade paperback, because if you're wanting an example of just a comic series that is just fun, that isn't too caught up in actually trying to make sense, just dumb, silly fun that pokes fun at even some of the weird idiosyncrasies of Capcom's various fighting games, then I highly recommend Udon Street Fighter comics, particularly Street Fighter Legends Sakura. That's the one I've been enjoying.
Okay. And then if people want to get a hold of me directly to leave their various pieces of feedback or maybe even give me crap over the fact that I did throw away that Transformer story, and I am deeply sorry about it, the two best ways to be able to get a hold of me is via Twitter, which is my handle @Drac2326. I do try to respond to you guys as quickly as I'm able, but as I've admitted numerous times, I'm not as great with the tweeter. I'm the old fart of this podcast and can't really get it to work all the time. So, but I do try and get back to people as much as I am able to. It just takes me a while to be able to check in and be able to see your message. The other way is also through my YouTube channel. You can PM me there, and you can go to youtube.com/Drac2326. That is where you're at right now, and that is where Geek News is hosted. So if you would like to see the various other episodes that we have done on all the way back to the 2014 archive, or to 2014 episodes, you're able to do that on my YouTube channel. And the other thing, too, that... Well, let's see. The other thing that I actually wanted to recommend, I'm doing a Romney's viewing club this week. Like I said before, I actually just recently saw Star Trek Beyond, and honestly, I would recommend it to any Star Trek fan. I think it's a great homage to the 50-year anniversary. I have new insight in regards to the George Takei issue. I think that they did well with it. And I also just think it's been a great homage to all that has come before it, to Gene Roddenberry's dream. I especially loved a lot of the nice nods that they made towards Leonard Nimoy, because a lot of people kind of forgot that a year ago, Leonard Nimoy passed away. And so I do like the fact that Star Trek Beyond paid that homage, and I'm not going to spoil the homage, but you guys will appreciate it if you're Star Trek fans. If you're fans of the J.J. Abrams movies, I think you'll be okay too. But if you're non-fans, I don't know how much you're actually going to appreciate this. That's the sad part. But as far as I'm concerned, this thing gets a solid B, an 8 out of 10 from me. It's been that good, and I actually I'm going to have a full-on vlog where I go into it. In the coming days, so you guys can enjoy that in the next little bit. Now, if you guys want to get a hold of the show directly, there are 4 ways to be able to do it. 2 of which are social networking. So we have a Twitter, which is @GeekyNRO. You can follow us there and get up-to-the-minute information when we're going live and the stories that we'll be covering, all that fun stuff. You can also follow us on Facebook by looking up Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions and liking it. And again, up-to-the-minute information. We'll even get your feedback on some of the stories and maybe even do some polls just to see where people stand on certain issues, because I'm planning on bringing that back again. The other 2 ways to be able to get a hold of us is the email, which is geekyweek@gmail.com. You can leave the stories for suggestions there, as well as be able to leave your feedback, or maybe even kind of lead us in the direction of some of the stories that we might be covering next week for Comic-Con. I'm already getting listener suggestions from the Comic-Con stuff that we were able to cover a bit of it, but we're obviously missing a lot more of that. So if you guys want to drop a story to me that maybe I didn't see, feel free to do so. And then also you can follow us at geekyweek.podomatic.com. That is where our RSS feed is, and also where the link to our iTunes page is. So I know that the archive is not as up to date as I would like it. I'm actually working with Podomatic on that. We're having some issues. I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but we're having some issues with Podomatic, and I hope to have the archive up as quickly as I am able to and as much as I am able to. But I can already tell you guys, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have as expansive a archive as we do on YouTube. So if you're looking for episodes older than, say, maybe a couple of months, you're probably going to have to look at the YouTube archive. But that's going to go ahead and do it for us this evening. We hope you guys have enjoyed, and we continue to love your contributions. I love the fact that we have a live chat now so that we can interact with you guys and be able to get even more opinions on some of these issues. And yes, it does kind of clutter things up, but I'm appreciating it, and I know that my fellow panelists are as well. So thank you guys so much for stepping in and enjoying this wonderful evening with us. And, of course, we'll be back next week for even more Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. So for me, for Alex, for Aldo in the chat, and for Romney, we'll see you guys next time.